Alright guys, apologize again for the audio, but we're making this video in response to some questions we've had about how to make boxes and containers in Fusion 360. These are skills that you guys have. There's nothing I'm really going to present to here that's brand new, but I do want to go through just the steps of the process so that we can see it a little more clearly. First thing I would check is to make sure that you're working in inches, because I'm assuming most of your measurements are done in inches since the design brief is set up that way. But we're going to make a drawing, and there are different ways to do this. This is just one of them. We are going to make a container, but we're going to start by building the bottom of the container. So that's why we're choosing the view that we have here. Now for our container, let's say we're going to make a rectangle that is 3 inches by 4 inches, so 4 inches wide. Tab, 3 inches, poof, rectangle. Okay, finish the sketch, and then we're going to extrude this. Now, it doesn't seem like it because, hey, I drew it. It's the bottom of a box. There's nothing there. There's no material. Until you give it some kind of thickness, there is nothing on the bottom of this box. So we're going to extrude it. Not very much. Let's see, 0.125, so 1/8 of an inch. But now there is a bottom to the box, okay? If you ever forget to do this step, there is a way to fix it that I'll show you guys at the end. We'll go through a real quick example of it. But you should start with the base of the box. There are a lot of ways, like I said, to tackle this problem, but this happens to be one of them. So let's say we're building a box that's going to have 4 containers. So like kind of set up in a quadrant here. We want to build a new sketch. We're going to build it right here on top of what we have. So we're going to create a sketch. Now when we go into this rectangle, that's good. We're going to start with drawing a rectangle right on top of it. Now this seems strange, but we need to establish what those outside edges are. So we're going to do that. That is going to be the outside perimeter of the wall that we are going to extrude. Now, we want to make 4 containers on the inside of this. So I'm going to just draw 4 rectangles, and we'll fix them in a little bit. They don't look pretty right now because I'm just sketching them out. But there they are. That's not good, but they're there. We're going to use the dimension tool to put these in the right place. Okay, we are going to have at the end of this a lot of dimensions, but we need them. Now what we talked about in class is that the walls that we make need to be at least 1/8 of an inch thick. I might make some adjustments to this design, but that's what we're going to start with. So from this right wall to the right side of this rectangle should be 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125, and hit enter. Now that will snap into place, pull the rectangle over where it needs to go, and we are good. We can do the same thing down below with our other rectangle, 0.125. And so that wall is good. We are gravy on that. Same process across the front. So from the front, or the lowest part of this rectangle, to our interior rectangle here, dimension 0.125, hit enter. We'll worry about the size of the rectangle in a little bit because we're going to have to do some calculations, but essentially this dimension process just continues on around the shape, making every one of these outside walls 1/8 of an inch. Don't forget that if you don't forget that if you don't want to type in the decimal, no, it won't. All right, there we go. You can just type in the fraction. Why it wouldn't let me do that? There we go. So 1/8 and hit enter. I know it's really small in this screen. I'm not sure why it is presenting so small, but it is. Same thing down below. We can type when we create our dimension. What is going on? I feel like I'm a step off. Here we go. If I if I was smart, I would not keep this video. I would start from scratch. I'm not gonna. So outside walls here are all almost set up to 1/8 of an inch. One more. Okay. Now we got to worry about these inside walls. These things should be lined up. They should be well spaced, like evenly spaced. So here's the thing. We've got 4 inches across the back here. We've taken off 1/8 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch. So that leaves us with 3 3/4 of an inch. So math, right? We need to split that in half and then also leave some space in between the two. So that means 3.5 inches, 3 3/4 of an inch, right? Take a quarter off, that's 3.5, and then half of 3.5 is 1.75 inches. So that seems wild, but that's where we're at. That means that each one of these rectangles should be 1.75. This one, and we'll do this one. Now we do the outside edges first because that locks those in and it allows the rectangle on the inside to stretch out to wherever it needs to. So 1.75 means that we can stagger these so that they look even. They're evenly spaced. Man, it's really dragging for me, guys. There it goes. Okay. So they're evenly spaced left to right. Now we just have to figure out top to bottom. Same thing, right? We've got 3 inches from the top to the bottom. We've got 1/4 of an inch already taken out. We're going to take out another 1/4, so that's 2.5. Half of that is 1.25. So from this top to the bottom of the rectangle, we're going to make that 1.25. And same thing down below, and we're going to double check our spacing. Looks like we're going to be good. Yeah. So you can see on the right side, there's a lot of dimensions here. And this is why I kept talking about you have to have a lot of dimensions. You want to dimension everything so that you can see it. So that you're not getting into Fusion 360 right now and trying to figure out where things are going to go. Now, that being said, that is a design process. There are definitely people that do that. I've done that, where let me get this into three-dimensional view so that I can see everything before I go through and start making dimensions. Okay. Now, this is a fairly simple box. It's just a box with 4 different containers on the inside of it. This is not outside of the realm of what we're going to make with our desk organizers. So knowing this process is a really good idea. You can do one rectangle at a time. If your storage areas are of different sizes, you can do one at a time. I'm doing them all at once because I'm going to extrude them all exactly the same way. So dimensioned, everything's good. We're going to go to finish the sketch and go to our home view. And so now, if I had made one big box, I would be cutting into the box. But since I just made the platform below, I'm going to choose the walls that I'm going to create. We're going to raise these up, let's say 3 inches minus 1/8 of an inch, so 3.875. Or sorry, 2.875. Oops. There we go. Go back to that home view so we can see everything. And so now, extruding that, we're able to see these 4 containers. They're evenly spaced and they exist. The thing that we talked about in class, I want to really quickly use it, is the fillet tool. It works slightly differently than I would like for it to work, but it's okay. Fillet tool will round edges, so we're going to focus on just one of these areas in the container. If you click on an edge, so just the line, you want to choose all of the lines that you'll apply this to. So we'll do all 4 edges of this part of the container. Then in here, you'll put in a diameter. So for us, let's do something small. We're going to do 0.05 at first. Okay, yeah, that worked. So what you'll see is that it has rounded those edges. They are no longer sharp edges. They have a round to them. Hopefully we can see that a little bit better in maybe like a 3-dimensional view. Yeah, there you go. So you can see that those edges are no longer those sharp square edges. They are now this rounded surface. Depending on the diameter that you choose, the number that you type in, or the radius I should say, the number that you type in, it will make it out of a very large circle and tell you that it doesn't work. Or it'll make a very small a curve like you see here. This is the 0.05. It means that this is basically part of a circle with a radius of 0.05 inches, which is pretty small. But it gives it a nice detail. It makes it easier to use. I can tell you that having these sharp edges being smoothed down is a nice thing to have. You can do it on a larger scale by, let me zoom out just a touch. You could do it on a larger scale and choose the interior edges of your container. So let's make that like 0.5. And you see that it will round that edge considerably. Okay, that is 1/2 inch radius. What if we did 0.25? So it's 1/8 of an, or 1/4 of an inch. So you can see how the number will affect how much of that gets curved. Now, if you try to do something wild like 5 inches, then it's going to do some strange stuff. It's trying to draw a circle with a radius of 5 inches and it just can't really get it to fit. And a lot of times you'll get an error message too, but it looks like this is at least going to try. Now, this may be something that some of you are looking at and going, man, that looks really cool. I think I could add that to my design. And I'm going to tell you, go for it. Because that is a cool thing that you can add. It's a very simple way to add some character to your design. It is a hard thing to add to your drawings because you have to add that rounded shape, but it's an easy way in Fusion 360 to add some detail. So that's where we're at. That's how you build a container. What I was going to say, let's say this is the bottom of my container. No, let's make a new one. What I was going to talk about before was, what if I built a container that doesn't have a bottom on it? So let's do that really quick, or as quick as it will allow me to do. Rectangle, another rectangle inside. So you've laid out your spaces, you've got your walls of your container built, and we extruded them out and created a little box, right? But the issue is there's no bottom to this box. What you can do is hold down Shift and your click wheel on your mouse and rotate to the bottom of the shape. So you're looking at it from underneath. So go underneath and find the surface that you want to use. Zoom in a little bit. And right click on it. Create a sketch down there. It will rotate to the bottom of the shape just like you need. We're going to draw a rectangle that covers the perimeter. Okay, so it's there, it's hard to see because it's basically on top of another shape, and we're going to finish our sketch. And now what we'll do, we'll go back to our regular home view. We're going to select that and extrude it. But instead of extruding it down, we're going to pull it up into the shape. Okay, so that we can set to whatever. Let's make it negative 0.25. And we click OK. And now what you will find is that the box has a bottom on it. We have a floor, it has been created, it exists, and it's taking up space underneath. And the good news is that the dimensions that we created before have not changed. So we don't have extra box sticking out on the bottom. We basically built the box into the box. So really long video this time. Hopefully it's helpful for anybody. If you need to skip around a little bit, you can do that. Yeah. So good luck, guys. You got this.